Hey, everybody. Welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. I have a podcast with Ben Sprague, who is the CEO of Earl Warren Showgrounds, and he's going to unravel and explain the whole pickleball controversy going on at Earl Warren, but also about the big changes ahead for Earl Warren and how they're looking to expand and reach out and do this whole new branding thing for the community. I wanted to alert you to two other podcasts that I did recently. Michael Shermer, who is the author of several books, New York Times bestselling books. He's also the owner of Skeptic Magazine. We talked, he's a Santa Barbara resident. It's sort of a big coup for me because he's this nationally known figure. And we talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's a Democratic presidential candidate. And we talk about his controversial views on autism and vaccines, and also why this is Shermer's whole deal, why rational people can believe irrational things. So check out that podcast. It's really interesting. I also want to alert you to my podcast with Elliot Jacobson, who is a self-professed doomer. And this is the podcast that I've done that's received the most views. It's more than 6,000. I don't even know what it's at now. Close to 7,000 views. And basically, he is talking about his doomer attitude, which is he believes the science, he's pro-science, he knows climate change is real, but he's saying it's kind of too late, and he explains why he believes that. So check out that podcast. It's really interesting, and I guarantee you will learn a lot. Finally, please consider making a contribution to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. I own this podcast. I do it on my own, and it's something that I really enjoy. And if you like these podcasts, I do the interviews with a wide variety of people on diverse topics about the environment, about education, about housing, about a whole bunch of different things that we care about in this community. And if you want to support me in my effort in improving the quality of the production, quality of the content and the guests, and reach out to bigger and broader and people who have more influence, not even in Santa Barbara but also outside of Santa Barbara, please consider making a contribution. You can go to santabarbaratalks.com and make a contribution through PayPal, or you can visit santabarbapodcasts.com, and you can use your credit card or ATM card and make a contribution of any amount there. Pays for my time, and it allows for me to do these podcasts separate from all the other stuff that I do. So check out this interview with Ben Sprague. Check out Santa Barbara Talks on YouTube. And thanks again for everything. Have a great day. Welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. It's a pleasure today to be here with Ben Sprague, who is CEO of Earl Warren Showgrounds. And I got to meet Ben a few years ago, and it's just a great guy to be able to talk to in this community about all the great things happening with Earl Warren Showgrounds. And he's really been responsible in sort of turning things around for the positive the last few years. And we have a lot to talk about today with some recent controversies that have come up. Ben Sprague, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I want to dive right in and go into what's been in the news in the last week, which is this issue that has arisen with pickleball at Earl Warren Showgrounds. And there's been some conflict as it relates to some other uses at the showgrounds related to roller derby, roller hockey, and there's kind of a lot going on. And I'm going to let you kind of frame it and tell people what's happening. But we do know that some people feel as though they were being pushed out in favor of pickleball, and now you are managing and sorting all of this out. Talk to me. What's going on with this space as it relates to roller derby, roller hockey, pickleball, and some other uses there?
Yeah, like a lot of things, it's a lot of misinformation and confusion and fear in terms of it, and and so it's nice to have an opportunity to try to clear it up. But Really, what's happening down there with the arena has to do with who's going to manage it. And so for a number of years, it's been managed by a nonprofit group headed by the roller hockey group. And so they've managed it and then subleased it to some other groups. In recent years, we kind of, as the Showgrounds, have really pushed this idea of an arena sports league. Let's bring in more uses. And so we adopted, that group has entertained futsal and lacrosse and now pickleball. And what's happened is the use has really grown. And so the controversy is that Pickleball, who is a company, not a volunteer group, Dynamite Pickleball, has thrown their hat in the ring to operate the arena. Now, I think the big confusion here is roller hockey, pickleball. Neither one has exclusive use. It's just who is kind of managing all the other user groups. And the idea was really to try and figure out some sort of profit sharing arrangement that really benefited the Showgrounds, allows us to reinvest and continue our kind of financial turnaround and success, while also being able to service the user groups, all of them, as nicely as well and as efficiently as possible. So I think there's some just misinformation about, what this is and what this could do, and some fear about loss of use. But I can tell you that no matter who manages it, everyone's going to get their time. And the goal is really just to maximize the time that asset is used and how it benefits the community, and also hopefully, be able to make enough money to reinvest in it.
Let me ask you about pickleball. I obviously, as a reporter, have covered this growing sport in various ways over the last few years. And usually it's this flash between people who use public spaces for maybe tennis or something, and the popularity of pickleball has created some sort of a conflict, because pickleball is really popular. So many people like to play it. Can you talk about, when did Dynamite Pickleball become a thing at Earl Warren? When did they start using it, and how popular are they? I mean, are there a lot of pickleball players at Earl Warren?
So I think they joined about 6 months to a year ago. They started booking time. I think they book a decent amount of time down there. I actually don't know. They've been all managed by roller hockey for the most part. I know a little bit about pickleball just because it's been in the news, but ultimately, again, for me and for the Showgrounds, is trying to figure out how to maximize the use of this space and support as many people in the community as possible.
Right. And so then the other issue is we have roller derby, right? Brawling Betties, and we have roller hockey. How long has that been involved at Earl Warren? How long have those uses been going on?
So the hockey rink was originally built in the 90s, and it was specifically for hockey, roller hockey. The roller derby has been there for a number of years now. I'm not sure how many, but what has happened over the years, and especially when the ice rink was built, that use has gone down, and so they were only using that space, several hours a week. And as part of kind of our goal of supporting the community at large, just because it was made for roller hockey doesn't mean it can't be used for all arena sports. And that's kind of how this controversy came about, is we're bringing in all these new uses, but we also want hockey will always have a place in that arena. And so it's trying to kind of fold all that together.
Yeah, I want to get to big picture Earl Warren stuff in a second, but I want to sort of just clarify this a little bit.
Sure.
So where do things stand? Obviously, no one's being pushed out at all. Everybody who's there now will continue to be able to be there. There's just this issue of who's going to have sort of the contract, I guess, to manage the various uses. What is the ultimate sort of goal here for all of this, and what are the next steps to bring some resolution to this?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the goal is the management. The management's not easy. Every single group has to have insurance. The scheduling needs to be, organized with all the different groups and communication. And then we have our own events here. When Fiesta's here, for example, those are blackout dates. This week and next week, the first, second weekend of July, are the National Horse Show. Those are blackout dates. The arena is not able to be used. they're also responsible for all the individuals who come in to use the arena, meaning that if people are speeding on the showgrounds, they need to have management of them. If people are drinking and they're not supposed to be, or whatever kind of conflicts arise or issues arise with both the individual end user and the different groups, need to be managed by this group. In terms of time, the time is protected. We take our history and relationships very seriously here, and so no one's going to lose time if no matter who manages this. It's really just about active and consistent management of this asset, and it's a complicated moving target with lots of things, and that includes kind of, okay, what needs to be fixed, what needs, they're responsible for their own restrooms and trash, and there's all kinds of these. It's a little more complicated than just who gets to play there. The next steps, I think, as I said, we have this blackout window of the next 2 weeks. I'm in discussions with everyone to try and figure out the most peaceful path forward, and also just reassure everybody that nobody's losing time. We're just trying to elevate the management of this, and whoever is ultimately responsible for that, these are the expectations, and then we'll lock in probably a year contract and see how it goes.
Yeah. Earl Warren is this incredible facility that we have in Santa Barbara, and it's huge. It's so much space and so much happens there, and people may or may not even be aware of what goes on at Earl Warren and all of the uses. And I'm wondering if you could just talk, Ben, about what this asset is. I guess it's state owned, but you have a board of directors that manage it, and then you're the CEO, and there's all this activity. I was just at the circus recently with my family. I go to the fair. I drive by on Thursdays. There's a swap meet. Obviously, the horse community's got a big presence. There's so much going on. So can you give us kind of this overview of what is Earl Warren? What is going on there?
What's funny is that seems like such a silly question, but it's such a good question. I grew up in town, and the same thing. I've been by it, but I didn't understand it. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. So the Earl Warren is, as you said, state owned. It's technically the 19th agricultural district of the state of California. So we're governed by this California Department of Food and Agriculture. And as you said, my board of directors are appointed by the governor, and we're 34 acres that is zoned recreational. We're not technically in the city, even though we're surrounded by city. We are in the county, and we're a host to just a ton of events that most people come here once or twice a year for something, but there's oftentimes multiple events happening. Right now, we have the Santa Barbara National Horse Show in the equestrian area, and a hot tub sale in the big building, and I think we have a private event in one of our other buildings. And so we're ultimately this multi-use community events center that was set up for one purpose and then has evolved into having multiple uses and purposes. A number of years ago now, I think about 10 or 12, we lost our state funding. So we used to be funded by the state, and a previous governor turned that off. So all the DAAs, all the agricultural districts, had to come up to become self-supporting. And so we are self-supporting. We have to pay all of our own bills. And even though we are state of California employees, we're responsible for that. So we are this balance of community, kind of a support for the community, this tool really in Santa Barbara that is supporting the community, and also having to not just pay for our operating, but also pay for our improvements and maintenance.
So one of the reasons that we're having that pickleball issue come up is Earl Warren's trying to be more financially self-sustainable. And as I reported, Pickleball offered Dynamite Pickleball offered to manage that contract. And so it's an offer. It's a financial consideration. You just explained that you need to make money, right? You can't give away all of this stuff. And so can we talk about what you've been working on in the past few years? Because we first met during the pandemic, right at the beginning, and you were really hustling. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. You were really working hard to figure out a way to keep Earl Warren going because of past management financial issues. So can you talk about the hole that Earl Warren was in, what you did to bring it out of that hole and where you're headed right now in terms of basically being a profitable facility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I first took over, I did a long financial analysis and basically determined that by the end of the year, we were going to need a bridge loan of $200,000 just to make it through the year. And that we had to rethink how we did business. And I'll give you one example. So among the assets we have here, we have an RV park. We've got 5 commercial kitchens. We have an arena, a roller arena, as you know. We have, equestrian arenas. We have 3 buildings. We have all these different assets. And the way that they were used or rented was kind of stuck a number of years before. So the example I always use is the kitchen space was renting for about 50 cents a square foot when market values are closer to $5 a square foot. And we didn't just slam Sam and say, okay, raising the rates immediately to that. We tried to ladder it up to be fair to our, and to keep our local community, our local Earl Warren, kind of the folks who have been doing it in, but also we have to be financially viable. Some of the other things, and that included some of the rates for our events. We had to raise our equestrian rates. We had to raise some of our lease rates. We raised our arena sports rate back then, and so these were all kind of considerations to start to make us more profitable, because it's not just about making a profit, because every dollar we get is reinvested here in the showgrounds. But truthfully, there's so much deferred maintenance that needs to be handled up here that we have to make money at a rate that we can afford to do it. And so with that, and then I was also able to win some grants. We won $1 million or $1.5 million to redo the Warren Hall roof, and that construction's almost finished. We were able to get some loans and some considerations during COVID. And so we've really been able to not just dig ourselves out of the bridge loan, which would only take us to fair, which is our largest and our most profitable event, and also the only event that we're actually required by law to have. We're able to have just these multiple business units that all are showing some sort of profit. And that allows us some freedom to say, okay, let's do things like have our website professionally fixed up, and take these steps that need to happen to have kind of the event center that Santa Barbara deserves.
Yeah, it's such a cool facility. I mean, I grew up here, so I have this fondness for it. But for all the people who come to UCSB or who move in for a job, they just might drive by it and not really know, unless like they go to the fair or one of the weekend things or something. But it's incredible, all of the stuff you have to coordinate, because I mean, you still have you have family events, you have quinceaneras, you've got activities where there's hundreds of people, maybe more, like thousands at Earl Warren on any given weekend. And it's quite fascinating to see what you're doing. So financially, what are some of the ways that you're trying to make Earl Warren more successful over the long term? Is it more programming? Is it booking more events? How are you deciding how this is going to work going in the future? And I just want to throw in there, you recently changed your mission statement. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, so one of the kind of learning curves with Earl Warren is we do 3 things. One is that we have year-round rentals. Our kitchens are rented on a yearly basis. That type of stuff. We also have events we produce. So we produce the Santa Barbara National Horse Show and the Fair and Expo. Those we produce in-house. It's done by our staff. That's our events. Besides that, all the other events here are rentals. So an event comes and rents the space from us and holds their event. And that's complicated. There's, food and liquor license and items that you're bringing in, furniture or whatever it is, the PA equipment, all of that stuff. So those are kind of the 3 buckets of our business. And really the one that we're focused on mostly here is the 3rd bucket. And trying to say to the community, and this plays into the mission statement, which I can get to in a minute, but trying to say to the community is we belong to you. We are here for you to produce your event. And now we have certain requirements. You need insurance. We have state requirements. You need insurance. It needs to pay for itself, that type of stuff. So we're, we're not doing that, but we're open for business for people to say, hey, this is our space. I'm going to produce an event. And there's legacy events here like Fiesta Rodeo, that's been happening for, years and years, and is one of my most favorite events. There's, Monster Trucks has been happening for a long time. There's the Gem Fair. There is the Dog Show. There's so many events that happen here that draw people from all over the community and all over the country, to be honest. Really that's it, is it's a message to the promoters and the event producers of the community and the state and even beyond, that this is a place that you come and you produce your events. It's your event center. Come have your event here, and we want to make it nice so that you want to have your event here. And really that's the part of the financial turnaround here, is that people don't want to rent a facility with bathrooms that are dirty or not dirty, but run down and things like that. And so we're actively fixing these up as we have some financial security.
Yeah. And what's the deal with the mission statement? That was a big deal that I reported on. Being able to change a few words, or maybe a lot of words, to say this is where we're headed. Can you talk about why that was significant?
Yeah, I think, the showgrounds were made originally for the Horse and Flower Show in the 50s in Santa Barbara. And those, at the time, they were huge. We had multiple flower shows and many, many horse shows. We only have one flower show now, and that's the Orchid Show. It's an amazing show if you haven't seen it. And we have about 6 to 9 equestrian shows a year, including our 2 weeks of the Santa Barbara National and Fiesta Rodeo. And so those uses, while still really important and part of our story, both in the past and moving forward, we're not we're not really taking the most advantage of the grounds. And so we have an opportunity here where certain areas sit unused for a big chunk of the time to think about, okay, so we're not using them for that. What else can we use them for? And so by changing the mission statement to kind of be broader, really is what it is. It's, we said the idea was it serves the existing and changing needs of the Santa Barbara community. And that's really what it is. It's not pegging it as this one need, but all of these needs. It says, okay, well, what can we be? Who can use this space? And we've done that. One example is the trapeze that is still going on, I think, downtown. They started here. And we had a deal with them for about 2 years, and it wasn't ideal for them because it was on cement, but they were able to start their fleggling business. It was profitable to us, and it built this thing. So what else can we do? Yeah. And that's really, it's really about saying we're open for business. Come here. What are your ideas? And let's see how we can use this asset to build a better community.
Yeah, I remember driving on the 101 and looking out and seeing the trapeze people and, trying to whoa, that's really cool, getting a glimpse at it for a few seconds, and now of course they're downtown at, I think, Veracruz Park, and they're doing really well, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to see if you could just say a few words about the horse community, because, another parallel thing that I've reported on over the years is from time to time, some issues will arise, and there's some sentiment from people who appreciate the horse activities at Earl Warren, who sort of feel like, hey, we're getting pushed out, or we're not as valuable as we once were. And I'm wondering if you could just sort of clarify, talk about that. You've got this big show the next 2 weekends. It's a national event. How important is the horse community, horse shows, to Earl Warren? And obviously there's no effort to drive them out either.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the misconceptions that we work with here. I mean, the horse community and events at Earl Warren are critically important. They are an enormous part of our history and heritage, and also part of our agricultural education. And we're always going to, as long as there's horse events in California, we're always going to throw our hat into the ring. Forgive my joke there, and have horse events here. The horse events have become less prevalent and less common in California, and so that's one of the things that we've been up against. But the horse community is invested. There's a lot of history there, and it's such an opportunity to showcase this amazing sport to the Santa Barbara community. We have this coming week is the jumping class. The next week is the hunter jumpers, and this isn't an Olympic style event. it's USEF rated, and that's the United States Equestrian Federation. And we went and fought for our dates, which are over 100 years old. So it's an incredibly important part of our business and who we are as an organization. And it's not the only thing that we do. And that's really the kind of the thing is there's enough space to share, and we can have equestrian events as well as other events at the same time. And our equestrian groups are really the most passionate about our grounds. Well, except obviously now there's arena folks who are passionate. So I love some passion. But they're certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, one of my favorite things here, the Math Super Bowl is one of my favorite things when all the schools come together and they have this event. One of my other favorite things is walking or outside the arena during Fiesta Rodeo when you can hear the animals, the horses at full speed running and the crowd cheering. And it's just this very magic feeling, even when you're not in the arena.
Wow, that's great. How was the fair this year? The fair is always the big highlight. So many people go. How was it this year? Is it back to pre-COVID numbers?
It's honestly, it's beyond that. The last 3 years since COVID, we have our fair has grown exponentially, of almost 45% in growth, and it's become much larger. We're not entirely sure what it is. I think it was because in 2021 when we had it was right after the state lockdown was lifted, and we had huge numbers, and those have continued now for 3 years. So our fair has actually gotten bigger and is even more of a thing. And in fact, there may be some interesting news coming out in a couple of months about next year's fair.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're going to give me the exclusive, I hope. No. The other thing is, I was recently at the circus, and, no animals at the circus. It's all basically just like showmanship, acrobatics, really talented stuff. And I'm always amazed that, there are people there, but it's never full. The times that I've been, it's never like capacity crowd. And it's such like this really cool event. Like people should go. People should check it out, because these people are among the most fit, athletic, incredible like people walking the planet. I mean, they're just doing these flips and twirls, and it's just unreal. And so I'm glad, just my own thing, I'm glad you have that circus, that you still do that, because that's very fun as well.
That's grown as well. It's gone from 1 week twice a year to 2 weeks twice a year, and it's funny what I have 3 kids, and it's funny what people reach out to me socially about having an experience here. And the circus was one of those where a bunch of parents were like, we went to the circus the other day and it was awesome. And so I'm not sure when they're back again, but it's kind of a sleeper thing to do in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, well, it's so interactive and accessible. The performers will come right out and interact with you and stuff. Hey, Ben, let's talk a little bit about you, because hearing you talk about everything that goes on at Earl Warren, it's a big job. It's like a huge job. And I know in talking to you, you don't have a whole lot of staff. I mean, you're there, you have a board of directors, you're always working, you're doing so much. Can you talk to me a little bit about like where you came from, and how did you even get this job in the first place? And the great news is you're a local kid, right? You grew up in Montecito, and so you this is your community. This isn't just some job for you. This is your community. So can you talk about how Ben Sprague came to be working at Earl Warren?
Yeah, sure. After school, I actually moved back to Santa Barbara and started working in the geography department at UCSB, but because I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but that wasn't for me. And then I really kind of got my hooks in entertainment at the Santa Barbara Bowl, where I worked for about 3 or 4 years. And from there, I got roped into kind of to producing events, to producing. I was fortunate enough to find my way to work on Super Bowl XL in Detroit, and that led me into a career, about a 13-year career of entertainment, where I would do a lot of live television events and a lot of just television events in general, and that includes just television production. So a lot of like different locations, negotiating with locations, lots of different scheduling, cameras, talent, insurance, payment, all these kind of different things. and then doing multiple shows at the same time. And so I'm very familiar with working with, locations and event centers and things like that. I knew how they thought. And then I also was very familiar with kind of having lots of irons in the fire at the same time, doing different things and different opinions about it, and schedules and all that, all those things. And then it was actually, interestingly enough, it was the mudslides that really put my eye here. I had been feeling a little hollow about what I felt like I was producing in terms of, I came to see that the shows that I enjoyed producing didn't make a lot of money, and the ones that I didn't enjoy as much were the popular ones. And so I started to think about maybe being involved in emergency management, logistics, and that type of thing. And then somebody said, "Hey, this job just came up, and you should really think about it." And that was a bit after the mudslides, and which obviously impacted me very personally, having grown up right there. So that's kind of the story, and then it brought me here, and as a bonus to continuing to do some sort of entertainment here, I also get to handle some of that emergency management stuff when we're unfortunate enough to have that type of stuff happen in town.
Right. So Earl Warren is sort of a staging ground for emergency crews as needed. Is that?
Yeah, it's kind of the one and only spot. Every time we have an event here, an emergency event, the leadership of all the different units are always like, "Thank God you guys are here and the lights are on." And we can do the don't know how we do without it. I mean, we do so much. We are a large animal evacuation center. Horses, alpacas, llamas, anything large comes to us from all kinds of distance. Frankly, we stage emergency crews, first responders, National Guard equipment. We've had FEMA drop off trailers just in case. We've been a warming center, a counseling center. We're kind of this multi-use emergency management, or the new term is community resiliency center, where they can sleep 1,000 firefighters, or have a news conference, or feed them, and just kind of the home base.
Yeah. Along those lines, one of the things that comes up in the context of what to do with Earl Warren is housing. And we know that there's these state demands. Can you just clear the air there? Like, why not build a whole bunch of housing at Earl Warren Showgrounds, right? There's huge parking lots, all this space. Does that come up? I mean, how are you guys exempt from that conversation?
We're not exempt from any conversation, but we're not in any conversation either. I have not heard one truthful whisper of that. I've heard concerns and all that, and all of that type of thing, but at this point, there's no credence, no validity to no truth to any kind of housing at Earl Warren. I think we're too valuable as an emergency management center, as well as providing the community with a bunch of other recreational and space support. So that is a narrative that, if there's any truth to it, I certainly haven't seen it in almost 5 years.
Right. I remember they were talking about, or it was a suggestion to put the police station there. Remember, even that one was, something that came up as well. So yeah, everybody wants to be at Earl Warren, apparently.
It's it's a very special place, and the possibilities are endless. I mean, for me, it's like, okay, let's embrace those possibilities, but let's do it in the most inclusive, multi-use community center type of way, and while also doing our historic and heritage uses. There's a way to do that, and we're trying to get there and sort of headed that direction.
Yeah, well, it's been a dramatic turnaround in terms of where things are at, and there's such, like you said, the sky's the limit. There's so many possibilities. A year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, Earl Warren can have this tremendous like presence in the community as almost like the Bowl does or something, just like in terms of just awareness, like, oh yeah, this goes on there. And I think we're headed in that direction. Go back to your personal story for a second. So are you a Laguna Blanca kid? Did you go to Santa Barbara High? Tell me about Ben Sprague growing up, K through 12. What kind of things did you do?
Oh, geez. Let's see. I went to Crane and then Kate, and I was soccer, climbing, surfing, that type of stuff. I I mean, I've said this before, but I have my memories of Earl Warren as a kid are the fair and monster trucks, a little bit. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Santa Barbara's home, and there's so much I still love to do here.
Yeah. Well, I've never been to the monster trucks, but I'm old enough to when you guys had wrestling there, right in that, I think it's that yellow thing behind you. What is that called? What is the name of that
So,
facility?
this guy,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
call it the flower building because it looks like an egg, but really what it is it's a daisy from the air. So if you look at an aerial photo,
Mm, mm.
the daisy, and it's called the exhibit building because it used to have all these exhibits in it, for fair and for other things. So yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah. So no, the wrestling was over there where they have the rodeo and stuff. Yeah, that facility.
in the arena, yeah. But we've
The
had
arena.
wrestling in MMA in there. There's been bands that have played in there, weddings, big events. Some electronic bands that became huge were in there. Chainsmokers and Eddie Oyoko, I think is his name. It's a really interesting building because it is shaped like a daisy, which most people don't look for buildings shaped like daisies when they're renting. But it's also the spot, just emergency management wise, where the orchid show is. I've been in there during briefings while crews are eating, and it's I think it's the largest commercial or rentable building in Santa Barbara County.
You should do at some point when you since you have so much money, to do all these things, is some sort of like video documentary on like the history of Earl Warren, and you just have all this footage of everything that has happened over the years. And if Earl Warren doesn't have it, you should ask the community to like share their videos of things they have attended, because it is this incredible facility. I mean, when we talk about the importance of mixed use and diversity and being able to do lots of different things in the community, I mean, Earl Warren is a place for the Latino community, in terms of events, family events, quinceañeras, the fair, obviously, a lot of affordable working class stuff for people to do. And not just that, but also all of, the flower show, the orchid show, the rodeo stuff. It's really a snapshot of everything that is Santa Barbara and all of us who share this space. And I think one of the things you can continue to work on is telling that story, and getting that out through video. You got to start your TikTok channel, you got to start.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have an Instagram, but you got to sort of make Earl Warren cool, because it is cool in its own way when you're there.
I mean, that is such a beautifully said, and I don't know if strategic planning is cool, but the board has been engaged in kind of a multi-year strategic planning process with just this kind of idea in mind. It's like, okay, so who are we? Who do we serve? And how do we serve as many existing and potential uses as possible? And so the board is doing the strategic planning work, which I think is going to hopefully result in some sort of master plan of like, okay, so how can this be the representative of our whole community and stay as the most affordable event rental place in Santa Barbara, which it by far is. So how do we do that? How do we create this Swiss Army knife of an event center for every single person in Santa Barbara? And yes, maybe not everybody gets exactly what they want, but if maybe everybody compromises a little bit, they can have everything that they need. And so that's, the board's doing that work, which is hard work. And hopefully I'm hopeful for results kind of allowing us to chart a path, and then maybe even raising some money to put up some new buildings, or, to create sort of, removable field space, or, all these different ideas that have been floated around.
Yeah, and just like we went to the circus, there was no parking costs. Like you can go to this stuff and not have to spend $40 to park or $20. Some of the events might have parking fees, but some of them don't as well. I want to sort of give you the last word here, Ben. This has been a really cool conversation, sort of just talking about Earl Warren and all the changes. But maybe we'll go back to the beginning, and then you can just send us off with the future. But when are you going to make a decision about like who's going to manage that contract? And is that coming the next week, couple weeks? You mentioned it's kind of a downtime right now because of the horse show. And then just kind of give us your final thoughts on why people should consider attending, whether it's the swap meet or it's the Fiesta Rodeo, or it's it's an event on the weekend, why people should give Earl Warren an opportunity to check out what's going on.
Yeah. I'll be making a decision very soon. The goal is to have the people back in the arena by the time the National Horse Show's over. Don't want the end user to suffer for kind of this confusion over management and trying to figure that out. So hopefully that mess will be cleaned up shortly, and everyone will be at least playing and hopefully happier in the long run, however that turns out. And I think you said it. Earl Warren's cool. I think people should come to figure out how we can make it more cool. I mean, what things do people want to bring here? This is your community event center, and maybe the the rodeo or the swap meet or the gem fair or the dog show or one of these equestrian events isn't your cup of tea, but come to one and look at the space and be like, well, what do we, how can we do this? How do we create like this multi-use flexible space that could handle all these different other things in Santa Barbara? Space is at a premium here, and we have a lot of it. It's just we want to take it from an underutilized place to a utilized place, and we're actively setting a course to do so. So honestly, what I want to say to everyone is get involved. Come check it out. Come bring ideas. It's there's boards and public meetings, and there's opportunity here, and for anyone who wants to get involved. So come on by anytime. We're here.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Ben. You're doing a great job. I hear that from people in the community, that they're pleased with the work, and you're kind of the perfect guy at the perfect time to be running Earl Warren. So, it's great to see everything that's happening, and thanks a lot for this conversation. And I'm sure we'll talk soon with whatever news story comes out of Earl Warren next.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation as well, Josh.
All right. Take care.
Take care.